Lucy. I am the moderator for this session. And a couple of administrative things. If you have your cell phone, just turn the volume down, the ringer off, so we don't disturb Mr. Jeffrey while he is doing his thing. I'm with Inspire. We are an organization. We do mentoring. We mentor young men, ages 10 to 23. We also do a team dad program, and we do Father's Empowerment. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Mr. Jeffrey
And my beautiful wife, Miss Debbie. We're a team.
Hey, wife. And so Jeffrey is the co-founder of Character GPS. It's over 40 years expertise in designing, delivering educational, business, charitable training programs that profoundly impact the lives of all ages while transforming their social environments that they live and learn in. He has conducted continuing education classes, professional development workshops for teachers, professors at all levels of education across 4 decades. He's been in business a minute. He studied computer operations research engineer, excuse me, at Cornell University, holds a bachelor's degree in secondary mathematics, and an MS in adult education, methodology, and statistical research from Indiana University. Jeff has been a VP of HR for many companies. Welcome, Jeffrey Kane.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you. So we're here to talk about protecting our kids. And you know, our culture is very toxic for kids. It's a crazy world that we live in. We have been doing our Character GPS program now for 13 years. I was a VP of HR at Raymond James, and we did a lot of leadership development, team development, but you know, it was nice to make millionaires, really rich, but we really felt that the most important thing is our future, and that's our kids. So we created this program. We've been a partner with the Department of Juvenile Justice for 8 years, and so we're going to pull together a lot of what we've learned to share with you today. So hang on, we're going to give you a lot in our short presentation time. We're going to be helping you to talk about what we do with our kids, which is helping them to manage themselves using their 3 T's: time, temptation, and treasure. So we'll start with a prayer here. So Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. Every day is a gift from you. Lord, we thank you for the gift of our youth, Lord, and that you have great plans for their future. You promised when 2 or 3 are gathered in your name that your Spirit is with us, Lord. So let your Spirit move here today. Let us have a wonderful time together here, Lord, and to share your truth, because your truth will set us free. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Amen. All right, so we have some objectives for our session. Just come on in, lots of seats up front. Don't worry about it. So one of the things, again, is that in this very complicated society, we have to help our kids navigate. Not as easy when many of us grew up. It's a very complex world, so we have to equip our kids with the tools to be able to manage their lives. So we're going to share with you about those 3 T's. First of all, we want them to know how to invest their time. Kids are good at spending things like money and spending their time, but investing their time is something they're often not aware of. They think they're young and they're going to live forever, but this is going to be very important for them to understand the use of time and to invest it wisely. Secondly, then, is to be proactive with temptations. Again, we all grew up with temptations. It's the human condition. There are more temptations for kids now, and dangerous ones. And so we really want to help kids learn how to be proactive in managing temptations rather than letting temptations take control of them. And then last, of course, is to learn how to plan to save money. And once they save money, plan how to use it wisely. So grab your pencils if you want to take any notes here or whatever, but we have 7 toolkits for success in our program. There's sequence, so there's skill building. So starting with proactive responsibility, they climb all the way up to the highest level, which is teamwork. So in this skill building process, we help prepare kids to not only be ready for their future, but to be excited about their future because they feel prepared. A lot of kids, though, today are not prepared. And so the future is kind of scary. And so they're not sure what the future holds. So they don't really want to pursue future. They'd rather just stay where they are. And if they can entertain themselves, they don't have to worry about any of the stress or fear that might be ahead of them. So we start our kids off in our program with today. We ask our kids, can you change the past? And after they think about it for a while, they agree, no, you can't change the past. What can you change? The future, right? Starting with today. So we want our kids to get to their future from today. Don't get stuck in the past. Don't stress over what's happened to you, right? You can't change that past, but you can learn from it. But don't let it hold you back. Be excited about your future. So if the shortest distance from today to your great future would look like what? Well, if I had this in here, it should be a straight line, right? But our kids, they often don't see that straight line, right? They're not really even sometimes looking for that great future because, again, of fear, false evidence appearing real. But we tell our kids that God has a plan for all of you, a great future. And they said, Mr. Kane, how can you promise me that I've got a great future? I said, I don't have to promise it. God promised you. Jeremiah 29:11 says he's got a plan that has a hope and a future. If kids have hope and they can look at their future in a positive way, we're going to help them be successful in life. But unfortunately, they get distracted, right? Distractions of all sorts along this journey. So the way we present it to our kids is that our 7 toolkits can help create the straight line for you. So think of this as like a river of life. There's a strong current. You got to get from one side to the other side where your great future is. If you try to swim across, the current will sweep you away. But if we had stepping stones above the river of life, could we get there? And the kids will agree, yes, I think we could. So we then give them these stepping stones to learn how to navigate this journey of life. So the first one is our proactive responsibility, making good choices. You don't blame your parents, your teachers. You make decisions and then you take responsibility from it. You learn from your mistakes. But when you own your life, now you're heading in the right direction. The second step is having a can-do attitude. Now it sounds a little corny. My last name's Kane. I was raised in a family of 7 kids. My parents didn't have much time to waste. So if you went up to my parents and said, I can't do something, they say, your name's Kane, you can't do it, end of discussion, right? We're just very efficient. You don't put your energy into solving problems. So when you believe in yourself, and obviously if sometimes we know we have limitations, we know we have Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives us strength, right? So we just got to modify. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. So it's in the Bible, right? The third one is then knowing your talents. Everyone has talents. A lot of our kids will compare to each other. They don't think they have a lot of talents. But we help them discover they have God-given talents. We do a mini Myers-Briggs survey as one way to help them flush out some of the talents that they might have that are different from other people. And when they realize they can develop those talents, now they can think about a vision for their life. What can I do to make a positive difference in this world? And when kids start to set goals and they start to believe in themselves, they start to get focused, right? We're able to start to reduce some of the distractions. But the next step is the critical one, our 3 T's. You got to be able to manage yourself to pursue that dream, to get to the other side. And a lot of our kids struggle with that. So that's why we're going to focus on 3 T here today. But if they can manage themselves, then they can learn how to manage healthy relationships. They can then work in teams. And they can get to their future. So that's the game plan. Now, of course, it looks pretty easy, but obviously it's a challenge for all of us to do this, right? So I think you're going to enjoy some of the things we're going to share with you. So looking at our 3 T's, we try to use things that our kids are familiar with. They love 3D movies, right? Where the third dimension, right, length, width, and height or depth comes out and it makes it look real to them. So we say, well, your life comes to life when you have 3 T's. I use association, right? So what are your 3 T's you need to manage? Your time, temptation, and treasure. So we ask our kids, if you waste time, can you ever get it back? No, it's a precious resource that God's given us. But a lot of times we take that time for granted, especially when kids are young. They don't think about the use of their time. But wasting time, I talk to a lot of people later in life, they say, oh, I wasted so much time when I was in middle school and high school or college. They have regrets. We help train our kids. You don't have to live with regrets if you learn how to manage your life the way God had a plan for you. So the second one is temptations. Of course, they distract us. Temptations look good, might Might be okay in small quantities, but in the large quantities often our kids want, it's not a good idea. So we have to help them learn how to manage temptations. We all have that challenge being human beings. The third is in managing your treasure, your money and resources, to use it wisely. We tell the kids we're the richest country in the world, right? Wow, we're so privileged to be here in America. But 75% of Americans live in debt. What is going on there, right? So we're going to share with you what we try to do to coach kids to understand how they don't need to be a statistic, part of that problem. So, first principle of success. People don't plan to fail, they what? They fail to plan, right? We're just going to wing life. You know, hey, life's good, I'm just going to cruise along in life. Some of our kids think that that's a great strategy, but it often then ends up in failure and disappointment, right? So the first thing we do is we teach them how to manage their time. So we say, if you looked at all the time that you spend, you can put them in 4 categories. One category that they are aware of is must-dos, right? These are time-driven deadlines. You got to show up for school. You got to turn paperwork in. You got to, do things on time. And for kids like in sports, you got to show up for the game. If you don't, what's the coach going to do? They're going to bench you, right? You don't show up for your job, they're going to fire you, right? There's natural consequences when we don't do the must-dos in life because they're urgent and important. But another category of time that we spend is distractions, where they're urgent, but not to you, to someone else. They want to do it, right? So their friends, they've got their phones, of course, about all the kids have these phones, right? And it's dinging all the time, right? Because someone wants them to do something, talk to them, respond to them, right? So even though it's not important, it becomes an urgent response is, quote, unquote, needed from their friends, right? So all these interruptions get in the way of some of the must-dos that they should be doing in the life, distraction, right? The third category then is our preparation. This is the high leverage in our life. But because it's not urgent, we often don't prepare, right? So kids just kind of wing it. They show up for the must-dos. They show up for the test, but did they study for the test? Right? They may show up for the game or the competition, but did they really practice? So we tell the kids, this is where you prepare for success. You study for the test, you ace the test. You practice for the game, you win the game, right? And that is the formula that you want to build yourself into. But sometimes for kids, that's just a lot of responsibility. Gee, that's so much work. It's not so much fun. So what could I do instead? Well, we have then escapism. Now, it's not urgent and it's not important. Why would you spend time on something that's not urgent and not important? Because it's fun, right? It's fun to run away from all those responsibilities. The problem for our kids is that as they establish this habit of escaping, right, they are neglecting the responsibilities in their life. So their responsibilities don't go away, they just waste the time that they could have spent on doing the proper preparation to be successful. So when they finally come out of their fantasy world, they still have responsibilities, but they have no time to get it done. So much for preparation. They show up, they don't do very well. Gee, life isn't so good. I'm going to escape from it, right? And they fall into this downward spiral. I escape from my life so I feel good, and when I have to show up for life, it doesn't go well, right? And so there's 2 different dynamics going on here, right? This kind of downward spiral of escapism versus the opportunity that if they prepared and handled their responsibilities, they could actually have fun winning, right? Winning teams, when they win, what do they want to do? More preparation, they want to win again, right? So you have 2 kind of competing dynamics. Unfortunately, a lot of kids fall into the one that seems more immediately fun, right? They want the immediate gratification. So what we do is we have them actually write out 4 of the things they spend their time on, so not school, not sleeping, but in their spare time, how do they use their time? And they put the 4 activities they spend the most time on, and then we have them classify. How are you spending your time? Create this awareness. Because for kids, time is abstract, right? But we need to make it concrete and real in their face. So when they do this activity, we also give the ladies the pink slips, not that they're being fired, but the pink Post-it notes and the boys the blue. So we first ask them, is time management a gender issue? And the answer is no, it's a human issue. right? So then we look to see, well, how is the class doing overall? And so we have lots of different profiles of different classes. Now this class is really quite amazing. There's very little escapism in this one. You say, wow, they're doing really well, right? But look at all the distractions they have, right? Those distractions are kind of piling up that they could continue at that rate, start to move over to escapism, right? There's some preparation, there's some must-dos. But what we try to say to the kids is, could you do better? If you could redirect the time that you're wasting on distractions to preparation to then winning, right? You start to build this sense of I'm capable, I can do things, I'm going to have a great life. Make your life so good you don't have to escape from it. That's the message we give our kids. But a lot of them, they don't realize that. They just think, I'm just going to do whatever I want. No one can tell me what to do. Maybe the teenage attitude, whatever it is. So they end up eventually, this all starts to pile up in escapism. Okay, it's kind of like that sooner or later in our culture. So what we try to do is have them realize that they can take control of their life now. The sooner, the better. So again, from a prevention standpoint, we like to work with like 5th or 6th graders because they're very moldable. We do a lot of work with middle schoolers because they're already kind of in the middle of all of our culture, and then they got hormones and everything else going. They got a lot of challenges, right? But the goal is if they can start to redirect to preparation, they can create good luck. So we say it's not a shake of the dice. It's not that kind of luck. It's a product of your choices. Do you choose to set yourself up for success, or do you choose to escape because you want to have fun, and then later you pay the consequences? So there's a principle. Short-term hard, long-term easy, right? But the kids want the opposite. They want short-term easy, but then life becomes long-term hard. And they don't really realize that they're doing this to themselves. It's kind of like a slow process that builds up these bad habits. But if we can create the awareness, we have them create action plans to start redirecting their time, breaking the bad habits, building the good habits, and starting to build then the success that gets them to buy into preparation to must do. So really the formula, they read off I was a math major, I like to kind of lay things out, but preparation with must do equals success, distractions and escapism leads to failure. It is obvious, it is undeniable, but kids often aren't aware of it. They don't see it happening to themselves. They take it from an emotional standpoint. What's happened to me? Am I dumb? What's wrong with me? As opposed to that just saying, hey, this is just a human condition that you're working with that. So the question is, who and what do you attach to? You attach to friends that are leading you astray. You attach to activities that grow and develop you to be all that God made you to be. That's kind of the bottom line of this. So kids either become crisis managers because they haven't done any preparation, they're just kind of surviving through day to day, or do they become proactive time managers? And the feedback we get from parents when the kids buy in to this, the kids are happier, they're more confident, they're more successful, and guess what? They're easier to parent because they are responsible. They make the choices that are going to help them be set up for success rather than parents having to try to coach them out of the mistakes. Does that make sense? Right? So that's why we kind of start with time management on this, because it's going to affect everything else. How we use time. So God designed us to attach, right? Of course, we know if we attach to God, the person who knows everything, we're on the right team, right? So attaching to things that are going to be helpful to you are going to lead you to success. But if you don't want to attach to reality, if you get, interested in all the fantasy computer games and everything else, and I see a lot of adults, we get caught in fantasy too. My wife and I were amazed at the advertising now. They advertise adult games. Have you seen that on TV? I don't know how, they're making money at it, I guess. But so even though adults want to escape into these different activities, supposedly to relax you or whatever, I don't know what the temptation is. But when we escape from our lives, we're not investing in our lives, right? So again, the principle, make your life so good you don't have to escape from it, right? So if parents are modeling escapism, guess what their kids are going to do, right? So we kind of have the big challenge. So that's why we minister to the whole family. We have the kids bring home each week from their GPS classes a teaching sheet, which they're supposed to teach to their parents to get bonus chips and everything, but we're hoping that the parents will be interested in what their kids are learning, right? All right, so now we have time management is clearly an understanding of what strategy are you going to pursue. It now affects temptation management. So one of the things we have the kids do, we watch a little video called the marshmallow test, okay? And it's very simple. Young kids are given the opportunity, here's a marshmallow, right? Nice sugar, great to eat, right? But if you can wait, you get a second marshmallow, right? So the kids get to watch these very young kids being tempted, right?
Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two.
So let me ask them, how do you manage your temptations? Can you wait, or do you have to have it now? What are the strategies these kids use to avoid temptation, or what do they do that makes them drawn into it? They stare at it, you know? But a lot of us do. We give attention to our temptations, right? What should we do? Look away, run away from temptation, right? So I won't show the whole video here, but the kids get to analyze what younger kids would do. You know, obviously, I'm older, you know, I should know better, right? But when they see that the young kids are doing the same thing that they're doing, it's, again, another awareness opportunity. So the desire for gratification is human, right? The desire for immediate gratification is immaturity. We build maturity by being able to wait for something, right? To work for something, to earn something, right? But our kids in this generation, they are more and more, they want it and they want it now, right? So if they can't wait, what they're falling into is addiction. They make themselves vulnerable to escape from reality and want to just have that immediate gratification. So again, we ask kids, what is an addiction? And we help them understand it's an urge for something that you can't control. And so we ask them, who should be in control of your life, you or the temptation? And of course, then when they think about it, well, of course I should be in control of my life, right? But the reality is, they begin to realize, no, I've given control to my temptations, right? I've decided that I want these things and I want them now, and I don't have any control over it anymore, right? It just starts to consume me, right? So we talk about two kinds, and of course the first kind is the most destructive, a drug chemical addiction, where your brain becomes conditioned that it has to have it. And if you don't, then it goes into convulsions, there's lots of bad things, right? And so we know that a drug addict not only ruins their own life, but ruins the life of everyone who loves them, right? Because they're going to do anything to feed that addiction. But the slippery slope is that we have habit addictions, things that we just like to do, that we want to do. We think we have to have them, right, to be happy. And so we start to get into habit addictions, which sets us up for then the chemical addictions that we'll talk about here in a minute. So we do a little activity with the kids just to kind of build the awareness. So we have everyone stand up for an activity. We always kind of get them actively engaged in the learning process. We have everyone stand up, and then Ms. Debbie and I, we read off some common bad habits, you know, addictions that kids have, you know. And they're supposed to sit down when they hear one, they take ownership of it, right? Because the first step is to create ownership and awareness that I have a bad habit, right? If you're in denial, you're not going to do anything about it, right? So we throw out there, of course, computer game addiction. We have a few kind of reluctantly sit down. Phone addiction. They go, oh yeah, I've got to have my phone, right? They sit down, right? Then shopping addiction, then, you know, sweets, chocoholic, you know, that's Miss Debbie's, right? How about a sports addiction? I got to see the end of the game. It starts to become pretty common things that kids realize they've given up control that they feel they have to be happy, to be whatever it is, right? And so by the end of this exercise, everyone is sitting down, saying, we all have this human challenge, so what are we going to do about it, right? We have to start taking control of our lives. Well, when should we do that? Tomorrow, next month, next year? Today, right? The word in Character GPS is always today, whatever the question is. You're going to do it today. You're going to work on the problem today. You're not going to put it off or procrastinate, which procrastination is another one of the bad habits that a lot of kids will sit down on, right? So we're trying to build this awareness of the human condition. So the question again becomes, can I break bad habits? And a lot of times the kids will say, oh sure, I don't have to have that. Prove it, right? 30-day challenge, let's see if you can do it. A lot of kids begin to realize that they struggle with that. So in their action plan, we have who's going to help you with it. You know what kids usually put? Myself. I said, no, you're part of the problem. You can't help yourself. You need someone else to hold you accountable. So when the kids start to realize that accountability is an important part of growing up and maturing, then they begin to appreciate parents. Their accountability isn't being mean, it's actually coaching, right? Having a mentor, having a friend, right? We can just kind of be, observers for each other and help us through those challenges to build the habit. And research shows generally, just a habit takes about 30 days to break and build a new habit, right? You have to replace it with something better. So if it's a distraction, escapism, you replace it with what could I do at that time that's preparation that will help me be successful, right? The kids have to have a greater yes. So we go through this, we kind of say in life you have to answer 3 questions. What do I need to have, what do I need to do, and who do I want to be? But the order that you answer these questions is critical. So in the reactive kind of addiction approach, which is what our marketing should be renamed addiction, right? You're trying to get people to buy stuff, right? Whether they need it or not. And so you got to have this stuff, and they try to prove to you. You have to be happy. Go for the gusto. You only go through once in life, right? You will look good. You will be, admired by other people if you have all this stuff, right? And I tell the kids, I've been to the Philippines, I've been to Haiti. A lot of the kids have nothing there. But you know what? They're happier because they don't think they have to have all the stuff to be happy. They can focus on something else. But if you have to have it, looking good on the outside, you then do whatever it is to get it, and then you end up being addicted, or if you're spending money on it, right, you end up being in debt, or some of our kids don't have the money, so they use the 5-finger discount, right? They end up being in jail, right? And we work with the Polk County Juvenile Detention Center. And I tell you, when kids have been caught and humbled, they now want to learn how to get out of this mode. So this is the opportunity. So we say, okay, well, how do I break this have, do, be? Well, if we look at all the things in our lives, we need to decide what my priority, what's my vision, what's most important to me to be successful in life. And unfortunately, in their vision, a lot of kids will focus on pleasure. I just want to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's a free country, I can be happy. But can you be happy 24/7? Well, that's not the way we're designed, right? That design is to work, right? Earn something and then have the satisfaction of the fruit of our labor, right? We're not supposed to be happy 24/7, right? You have to be able to discipline yourself. You have to build a work ethic, right? It's just like building a muscle. You got to work at it. But the kids think, oh, hey, TV, right? Everyone tells me I should just be happy. So that's just what I want to be, is be happy. And so if they're not happy all the time, right? Their real life reality, what are they going to want to do? Escape, right? Find pleasure in fantasies or any other artificial, not real way. And so if they keep focused on that pleasure, it becomes more and more important to them. Eventually, it starts to take over the vision of their lives, right? And this is the pathway to addiction. When addictions become more important than your purpose in life. And unfortunately, we have a lot of kids on this slippery slope. It's the way that they're living their lives in our culture. So what do? Well, we have to teach them the truth, right? The truth will set you free, right? God created us to know who He made us to be. You have talents, you have abilities, you can make a difference in this world. Then you can then focus on doing those things and develop that talent. Say no to the distractions and yes to who you want to be. Then you'll have the things in life that money can't buy. A sense of accomplishment, a sense of purpose, right? beyond what the momentary pleasures might bring you. It's lasting joy, right? A life in faith is a life of joy. It's not always every minute's pleasure, right? We got to work at it, but it's a life of joy because we know whose we are, we know where we're going, and that gives us the sense then of the stress the kids have, often not knowing the future. I can know the future if I head in the right direction. So we teach them then that you take control of your life. You can program yourself. The animal kingdom can't do that. They have to be trained, but you can program yourself. All you have to start with is desire. You have to want it. You have to want to be better than you are. You have to be all that God made you to be, right? Then you learn how to do that. Seek wisdom and knowledge, right? Solomon gave us a lot of information on that, right? In Ecclesiastes and in the Proverbs. And then you build the skill, but it takes about 30 days, right? But this is the process. Desire, learning, and then skill building. And if kids buy into this, they develop great habits in their lives. They become thirsty. They want to learn. They want to know. They want to get better. They want to get A's on their tests to progress to the next level. They set goals for themselves, right? Because they realize there is a purpose to my life. Not just living the moment of pleasure, right? You see the difference, the challenge that we're facing right now in our culture. So for my journey, I had some great coaches in my life. My 10th grade chemistry teacher, Mr. Watson, he was a crazy kind of chemist guy, and he made all the kids laugh and everything. But I listened to his advice. And one of the things that he said is you have all the chemicals in your body to have the highest high or the lowest low. You have to learn how to use them. And that really it made a lot of sense to me. Now, of course, I didn't have all the information quite to apply that, but that was kind of in my mind, that those words of wisdom stayed with me. So when I went off to college, I got pretty good grades. I went to Cornell, and I was going to study computer operations research. So in my freshman orientation week, I actually went around and met with all my professors. They didn't know who I was, but it actually worked really well. But we had a party for our dorm. And so you go down and meet all the new freshmen, right? And God blessed me with a great roommate, Jim Page. He and I were on the same page, God's page, right? And so we went down to this party, and there was punch, and you could drink something while you're talking to people. And I took one sip of that punch, and it was disgusting. So I went back to the prep room, and I could see Gilby's Gin, other alcohol, because I worked at a drugstore, right? So I went to the resident assistant who was throwing this party in charge. I said, we're underage. Why are you spiking our punch? And she kind of looked at me and said, well, this is what get used to college. You got to grow up. It's college, right? And I said, couldn't you give us 2 punches, one spiked, one that's not spiked, so we could choose to break the law? And she looked at me like, who is this freshman? I had like 3 heads. So I walked out and said, Jim, they're spiking the punch, and we don't get a choice. And it was a defining moment. Who was going to be in control of my life? Was I going to give it up? Here I was at Cornell to get my education, pursue my life. Jim and I agreed that that's not what we're going to do. We're not giving up control. We walked out of that party and into our future. We did college our way. I was paying for Cornell. Very expensive. Scholarships and work study, slave labor, whatever you want to call it. But we had to earn that education. I wasn't going to waste it. But because I was from a large family, 7 kids, right, I need people around me. So I joined a fraternity, and of course, fraternities, so they party on the weekends. Now, they party just about any day of the week, but, it was at least the weekends. And so, at the parties, of course, they have alcohol, but I drank soda, right, because I didn't need the alcohol to feel good. I made that decision, proactive decision, that Mr. Watson had encouraged me years ago. So one day I'm walking into the kitchen to get some more soda, because the soda isn't sitting out with all the rest of the alcohol, right? And one of my brothers walks in behind me, and I'll never forget, his name's Dean Price. He said, Jeff, can I just ask, are you drinking soda? And I wasn't embarrassed. I said, sure, Dean, yeah, I don't need that alcohol to feel good. I enjoy the fellowship, right, of my brothers. He said, well, Jeff, I think I do. I think I'm an alcoholic. And he was just a sophomore. He had already become addicted to the alcohol to help him extrovert himself, to feel comfortable with other people. He needed this drug, this addiction, to help it, right? I said, Dean, I am so sorry. And he said, Jeff, could you help me with something? Could you do me a favor? I said, sure, Dean, what can I do for you? He said, can I hang with you so that I'll drink soda like you are and then I won't feel out of place? And I said, Dean, I'd be honored to have you hang with me, right? So the decision that I made not only helped myself, but it helped other people around me. That developed my leadership. Of course, then I became the designated driver, all those other things, right? But it was a great decision because it helped me at that time to have control of my life, to stay focused on my future, but also long term. You know, I'm actually turning 64 this Saturday, believe it or not. But you go to the doctor as we get older, right? Everything's kind of, parts are wearing out, and they got to check out things. And so the doctor ran my blood test and everything, and he said, Jeff, your liver is pristine. And I said, yeah, I don't drink, you know? He said, well, that has helped you all through your life. And I thought back about it. You know, what does the liver do, right? It cleans your blood, right? It helps basically with your immune system. So teaching, I was around all these sick kids all the time. I had so much immunity, right? Because my liver was functioning the way God designed it to be. So the decision I made way back in college helped me in multiple ways, right? To live. And now, of course, I can share with kids my witness. This is my story. I don't need drugs and addiction. Miss Debbie and our home is a drug-free home, right? We don't need it. We celebrate with our friends on holidays and do things without needing artificial means in which to have pleasure, right? So that's kind of like my witness, my story to the kids. You can live this way, believe it or not. You might not know too many people I don't know these days, but you can live this way, right? So looking back then at our target, right, the proactive approach was to have freedom, right? Be who God made you to be. Be all that God made you to be. Don't give control away to temptations, right? Do the things that are going to help you achieve your goals. And when you achieve the goal, what do? You set the next goal, right? You build success in your life. So with that kind of premise that we're sharing with the kids, we're giving them an opportunity to see life in a new way that maybe they're not seeing, whether it's in their family or in the culture, TV, whatever. So then we start to educate them. Now we got their attention. Marijuana, right? Kids hear, oh, medical marijuana, it must be good for you. No. Medical marijuana is for people that are dying. It's for pain management, right? That's why they have medical marijuana that a doctor can prescribe it for them, right? And unfortunately, you know, we now had an amendment here in Florida to make it recreational, like Colorado. I don't know if you've been to Colorado, but it stinks. You go around there and you smell pot all the time, right? So fortunately, we dodged that bullet. But it's because of the lack of education. Kids don't realize there's short-term effects to your body. And one of them is just like you can have a DUI drinking alcohol, you can have DUI high on marijuana, right? And you can now be arrested for it. It impairs your ability to respond. And to be honest with you, most kids that start, we kind of used to call them potheads, you know, when we were growing up, because there were very few of them. But now kids are taking marijuana all sorts of different forms. It makes them lazy. Why would you do something? It's hard enough to motivate yourself to do all the things you need to do. Now you're going to take something to make yourself lazy? So, but the long-term effects it has on your brain and your body is not good. The kids don't know this, right? So we're educating our kids once now we got them at their attention of what this does to your life. So we showed them then some real data. So again, a study done here in Florida in 22 about substance abuse. Now some people, again, make the excuse for using drugs in a way they think is going to be helpful. So like, oh, my kid's depressed, and I don't know what to do about it, so I could give them maybe some marijuana or some things that help them feel better, right? Alcohol, marijuana, other drugs. The study showed it actually made them more depressed. You feel good, and then it drops off lower than you were before, because these drugs are affecting your body in unnatural ways. Okay? So if you're concerned about depression, don't self-medicate yourself. That's going to make it worse, right? Well, how about if I have anxiety and suicidal? You got to help these kids, right? Well, they found the same thing, that each of these drugs actually made their suicide risk greater, not worse. So again, you hear sometimes people use excuses, or even parents who have been misinformed, they're allowing their kids to be handled in this kind of medicated way. It's not helping them. We teach our program, get to the root problem. Why are you depressed? Because you're escaping, you're not building success, right? Why are you suicidal? Because you don't like your life. What's wrong with your life? Let's work on your life, right? Not just try to medicate to overcome that. Now again, there's lots of circumstances and everything, but in general, for healthy kids, they don't need to go this route. So of course, in our wonderful, capitalist society, and I love capitalism, right? But people want to make money. So here's Skittles. It's candy, right? It's sugar. Okay, don't eat too much candy, right? Well, now you have Skittles that are medicated, but they look just like candy, right? But what does medicated mean? It has marijuana in it, right? Kids don't know that. They pick it up, they buy it. Hemp is a problem right now. You can get it at some of the gas stations and stuff like that. It's not always being regulated. And so, like, younger kids will eat it like candy, and then they end up going to the emergency room, right? So what's happening? Well, people that are manufacturing this, they want to do one thing. They want to make money, right? It's not about making kids happy or making life better for anybody. It's just like the cigarettes. They put nicotine in it to make you addicted. They will make you addicted to this stuff, so you'll buy more, and you will consume, and you will make them richer. So we ask our kids, do you want to make these people richer at your own expense? That's what's going on. You're being manipulated, right? The packaging is telling you what they're trying to do. So now there's all sorts of different packaging. And Halloween has become a really dangerous time. You got to go through the kids' candy and make sure what has been given to them, right? Because it can be mixed with all sorts of stuff, right? You see what's going on in our culture? It's really dangerous. So we actually then educate the kids. This is now what I wish Mr. Watson had taught me back in 10th grade, but I probably wasn't quite ready for it. But we have these 4 basic chemicals in our brain that produce positive chemicals. And also, when you are depressed and so on, it releases negative chemicals. But on the positive side, there's a chemical called dopamine, right? It's a reward chemical. God designed this that when you achieve something, your body rewards you. It releases some dopamine, right? When you accomplish something, don't you feel good? Check something off the list, right? Hey, I'm getting things done, right? And your body responds to it. The unfortunate thing, though, is that artificial accomplishment. Hey, I made it to level 15 in my computer game. Wow! And they're getting little dopamine, knocks there, right? And then sometimes even for us, we're playing some of these games on our, we're scrolling through, surfing. That's a dopamine release. Anyways, it goes on and on. So dopamine, though, in natural management of your body, God designed it. It releases some, and then there's no side effect. There's no downside. There's no withdrawal symptoms because it's being done at a natural level. But drugs like marijuana, they hack into these drugs, right, and release them in unhealthy amounts that makes you addicted and has withdrawal symptoms on it. You see? So it's God designed for good. Humans can always find a way. Anything, a powerful tool can be used, misused, and abused, right? Well, the same thing's true of endorphins, right? You exercise, isn't that good, right? Your body's for that. You got to exercise. Don't sit around, right? You ever heard of runner's high? Right? You exercise, your body releases endorphins, right? Saying, hey, this is good for me, right? Or you can laugh. Don't take life so seriously, right? You have to laugh a little bit. God designed us to live in this kind of balance of managing our body. But again, what do the drugs do? They hack into these and release them in unnatural quantities. And we get these big boosts of, euphoria and everything, highs, but then coming off that is where the damage starts. And then the addictions come in. Another one, oxytocin, right? Hey, when you help people, right? Isn't it nice to help people? I was a Boy Scout to help people cross the street all the time. You feel good when you help people, right? God designed it that way. But again, drugs will hack into what was created to have good relationships and supersizes it, right? And then how about serotonin? The mood stabilizer. How many remember when you were kids, your parents said, go outside and play, right? Now maybe they were trying to get you out of their hair, I don't know, but they were actually telling you something good, right? You gotta get outside and get sun exposure, right? So your sun produces vitamin D3, right? Which is good for your immune system. And being out in nature, green, right? But unfortunately, a lot of our kids go outside and there's no green, it's just cement, right? They gotta find some things in nature, right? But when you're outside in sunlight and healthy living and exercising, you get healthy amounts of these positive chemicals in your body, right? It's good. And kids are happier when they do this. But if they stay inside playing computer games, right? Because this is too much trouble. I mean, I have to achieve real work, I have to do my homework, I have to exercise, I've got to, laugh with my parents' stupid jokes or something, whatever it is. They see this as that's just too much, even if they're aware of it. They'd rather get the gratification when? Now, right? And in large quantities. Because what felt good yesterday isn't enough for today. I gotta have more. I gotta get that bigger high, right? And so again, this addiction cycle kicks in. But if kids understood that they can do this all naturally, they don't need to use drugs, and the natural way helps to regulate it so you don't have any downside to it. It's all good, right? When kids understand this and you can reason with them, they start to become educated, right? They become aware. They start to say, hey, I can take control of my life and I can still be happy, right? I can live a good life. I don't have to do these drugs. I don't have to be sucked into these temptations. So as we presented my lifestyle was kind of one way that I decided to approach life, but other people will go down the route of drugs and alcohol. So this is one of our friends who went down the other route. His name's Derek, great guy now, right? But he lived a tough life, so we show this witness. I'll just give you a piece of it.
Derek, Jeff and Debbie asked me to share a little bit of my story, my testimony on why I don't participate with drugs and alcohol anymore, which was not the case for most of my life. I'll tell you how it started for me. I always wanted to feel different for some reason, or I wanted to try to fit in. And in doing so, when I was 12 or 13 years old, I started smoking cigarettes. I started to use other tobacco products. That progressed when I was 14 to start drinking. When I did these things, I wanted to do it again. Even though a lot of times I would feel sick from doing them. I would smoke a cigarette, feel sick. I would chew tobacco, feel sick. I would drink and feel very sick because I did drink a lot when I would drink. And even though I did those things and they made me feel sick, for some reason I just wanted to continue doing them. And it was either the crowd that I was hanging out with, or again, that I just wanted to feel different, or just kind of felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. And that progressed into me smoking marijuana or weed or pot or whatever you call it these days. I ended up smoking pretty much every single day through my high school years, and I also would drink as much as possible when I could. And I didn't excel much in school. I wasn't really interested, and I would attribute that to being preoccupied with drugs and alcohol. I did play a lot of sports. I did excel in sports. I actually got a scholarship to college for tennis. And the thing is that when I left for college, most of it was paid for, which my parents were very happy about. But unfortunately, when I got there, because of my drinking and drug usage, I ended up failing out within the first year. Now, I don't have many regrets in my life, but to ruin an opportunity like that to get high or to get drunk, looking back, is just not something that I wish I would have done. Let's just say that. I moved back home, to Florida, and my drug and alcohol usage progressed from there. What was something that was fun to me, and I was smoking pot and having fun and giggling, and then I would drink and I would have a good time, and let me not say that I didn't have great times. I did when I was doing a lot of these things. But the thing is that looking back, it didn't add anything to my life. Right now, I live an incredible, fulfilling life. I have more fun than I've ever had in my life, and it has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol.
So we let the kids listen to someone who's gone down that road. What choices are you going to make? What are the consequences of those choices? Now, today, add on to all this evidence that we've just presented, and you added fentanyl, right? Fentanyl, 1 gram of fentanyl can kill you. And so kids that are experimenting, they don't think they're doing anything wrong or whatever, and some fentanyl gets mixed in, and life is over. It's done. Their 3T, they didn't make it to MR, meaningful relationships and team building, because their life ended right here. And that's why we feel it's so important to help our kids get educated, understand how to control their lives, don't fall into addictions, and all these risky behaviors, and then have this happen. The tragedy that I've talked to parents that have lost their kids that had so much promise in their lives. You could see God had great plans for them, and yet they hung with the wrong people, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and didn't realize that there was that consequence. So what we have decided to do in our program is by educating the kids to give them a proactive choice. If you can say no to something now, before you're being tempted, before you're in the middle of peer pressure, you can make that conviction, much like I did. I'm not going to drink my way through college, right? I'm going to make a good decision. Then when they're tempted, they've already made the decision. It's easier to say no, right? But if they're on the fence and they haven't really made the decision, they can then be swayed by peer pressure and the circumstances, right? So what we've done is we have offered our kids, after we present all this, is an opportunity to sign a pledge. Okay, now this is not a legal contract, you're not going to do it, but it's to them. This is a contract for themselves. The pledge that I can live alcohol and drug free, right? I'm underage, I shouldn't be doing this stuff anyways, right? But why not sign and make the decision? And so on here it says, I will resist the temptation for immediate gratification, right? I'll say no. I'll encourage people to say no. I'll prioritize investing my time with better things, and I'll commit to having a mentor. Someone who can help me while my frontal lobe isn't fully developed until 25, right? You need to have coaches in your life. Parents, teachers, anyone who can mentor you. Be open to mentoring, right? It's really a life skill. So when we present that to the kids, we say, we're going to give you a Character GPS challenge coin if you sign the pledge today, right? Now, it's kind of a neat coin, right? It's not worth a lot of money, but what it is, it's tangible. Kids need tangible things. And so Miss Debbie and I, when we run into our kids later, and they go, hey, Mr. King, say, hey, how's it going? They'll pull out of their purse, out of their wallet. Hey, I'm still working at it, right? It's a symbol to remind them that they made a commitment to themselves, right? And so we have had great success. We've only had out of maybe almost 100 kids now that have gone through since we started doing this. We've only had 2 kids who didn't want to sign. And we knew why. They were already doing drugs, and they hadn't decided yet whether they were going to break the cycle or not. So, but we're hoping that we've already saved a lot of lives. And we're hoping that those kids sharing it with their friends, the multiplying that God can do with that is going to save more lives. And so we're sharing it with you today to encourage you that if you have opportunities to influence our young people, is today help them make a decision to live alcohol and drug free, to manage addictions, to be proactive with their temptations for a great life, right? This is just kind of one key part of it. So this pledge coin, we're going to keep doing it. It's working, right? We weren't sure if kids would sign up or not, but they are, right? So the opportunity then is when you give kids a chance to set a goal, to shoot for something, usually they'll take you up on it, right? If you can present that they're capable, not the fear of failure, I can't do it, Mr. Kane, but when we start to show we believe in them, they believe in themselves, they can accomplish amazing things. But what's the other side? What happens when addictions start to take control of our kids? Fantasy overtakes their reality in their lives. Well, if they can't set goals to motivate themselves, right? We ask them, who motivates you? And we help them realize it's myself, right? I can have encouragement, I can have incentives, but they have to learn to motivate themselves. They have to be willing to put the effort in to get the results, right? Postpone gratification, to be their very best. So I remember my high school graduation keynote speaker, that was a few years ago, but I listened. But anyways, he said, the key to success, of course all of us seniors were listening in, right? What's the key to success? Whatever you do, do your best. If you're asked to sweep the floor, don't just hurry, do your best, right? Whatever task you're given to do, your homework, don't just hurry, get it done. Do your best. If you do it for 30 days, what are you going to do? You're going to build the habit of doing your best, which we call excellence. Not being perfect, but you do your best, but you get the habit of doing it. It's not so hard, right? But what's the alternative? Well, a lot of kids want the easy way. They don't want to put that effort in, right? And so if you then always choose the easy way for 30 days, what happens? You build a habit of laziness, right? And then you add marijuana on top of it, it's even worse, right? But we have a lot of kids that have bought into laziness. And Miss Debbie and I have seen it in our classes. We have more and more kids that don't really want to put an effort in. We're kind of really having to entice them to really try to do their best because they naturally wouldn't do it on their own, right? They're not being reinforced at home or in other places, right? But if they fall into this habit of laziness, it affects their lives. And so it comes down to two basic conditions that they're going to live in. One is what we call compliance. That's where you do the bare minimum, right? And if you get in the habit as a teen of doing your bare minimum, then when you get a job, what's going to happen? Maybe at first you'll work hard because you want to get the job, but then you'll fall back into your habits, right? And you do the bare minimum. Is the boss going to want to nag you to get the work done? No, they'll fire you and find someone else who wants to earn this money, right? So we say, how do you know you're in compliance mode now? Well, if your parents have to remind you, they have to nag you, do your homework, do your chores, get to bed on time, right? If your teachers have to nag you to get your assignments in, guess what? You're in a compliance habit. You're doing the bare minimum, right? So what's the alternative? What do successful people do? They build the habit of commitment to do their very best, right? They go beyond what other people expect. Their standard is higher than other people. And that's why they then impress people. When they get a job, they get promotions, they get pay raises because they're committed. The boss knows they're going to go beyond, right, to service the customer. Those kind of people that you want to have. People I wanted to hire at Raymond James, but I had 10,000 employees. So I can tell the kids, this is the real world, right? Prepare now to be in commitment mode. And you're going to build the confidence and the success that you want to have, right? And of course, it spills over into your relationships, right? Commit in your relationship. So my wife, I'm married to the most wonderful woman in the world, right? And I told her, it's kind of a funny thing, but when we got married, I said, I'm going to give you a foot rub and back rub for the rest of your life, because she had kind of trouble relaxing, a little tense, right? And I think she thought that was a nice gesture, but every day, I gave her a foot rub and back rub, no matter how tired I was. Hey, honey, okay, got to give you your foot rub and back rub. Because I want to send the message that I'm committed, right? You can count on me, right? This relationship is a lifetime commitment that I think is important, right? And my job then as a husband is to make her feel the way God made her, priceless, right? If she's having a bad day, the foot rub, the back rub, hey, I'm still priceless, right? That's my job, that's my privilege, right? And so when we do that for each other, we build relationships that can stand the test of time. They can stand the pressures of life, right? Because commitment is the way God lives, right? He's committed to all of us. And sometimes, we should be committed for some of the stuff we do, right? But He's forgiving. He allows us to, repent, right? And get back on track. So we can live a life of commitment. Our kids can learn to live a life of commitment now, where they can then have healthy relationships. And the feedback we get, again, from our parents when the kids go through our program, the kids come out of the room, they spend time with the family, they volunteer to do chores around the house, right? They are in a commitment mode to their family. It's not like some teenagers that come home and treat it like a hotel, they check in and expect room service, right? My family, 7 kids, that wasn't happening, right? You had to contribute. So building the kids in a commitment mode now serves them for the rest of their lives, right? And then the people they interact with are benefited by them and their faith, right? So we have 16 core values in our program. One of them is self-control and being proactive, right? So we have the kids live these core values, adopt them, make them your habits. So we use the iceberg as a model. There's the tip of the iceberg, there's about 10%, that's what you see. The mass of the iceberg is below the surface that holds it up, like 90%, right? So people see who you are on the outside, but we know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, right? Kids know that, right? Who you are on the inside, that's your character. We have them develop these character value traits by practicing them. So for self-control, you gotta be proactive, put the effort in, courage, commitment, hard work for 30 days, and then it comes to the surface. You're not faking it anymore. You're the real deal. You're the people that people want to have as a friend. You're the people that people want to hire. They want you on your team, right? Because you're the real deal. You're someone who has self-control. They can count on you, right? So this is what we try to teach our kids, is that you take these values that we're teaching you, these 3 T's, you put them into practice, you're going to benefit for the rest of your life. And you'll benefit other people who you might be able to help, like my friend Dean Price at my fraternity, right? But what's the alternative to all this? Well, if kids continue to fall out of reality into fantasy worlds, addictions, then they're just prone for addictions. So you might say, okay, what's going on with our school? Is school shooting? What is that? We didn't have that growing up, right? Well, here's a couple different examples of school shootings. 1997, a student killed 3 students. What was their backstory? Violent video games. They had been a target of bullies, right? Suffered from a variety of diagnosed mental illnesses. Columbine High School, 1999, 2 students killed 12 students and a teacher. What was their backstory? They enjoyed playing violent video games because they were bullied. Sandy Hook, a 20-year-old kid killed 20 kids, 6 adults. Again, backstory. He's playing a wide variety of video games, a loner, depressed, right? Parkland here in Florida on Valentine's Day, right? The student kills 14 students and 3 staff. The backstory: shooter spent hours playing violent video games and was unpopular, right? So, what's going on here, right? What's the pattern? Well, the pattern is kids that are bullied, right? No one likes to be bullied. But if you're repeatedly bullied as a victim, you become powerless, right? You feel anger that these people are doing this to you, right? So do you like your life? No. So you want to escape from it, right? So that old escape, right? They start playing then video games, and often with the boys especially, these violent video games have guns in them. They get desensitized. I'm shooting people up to get points, right? And this is making me feel good. It's releasing dopamine, all the kind of things that they're not getting because they're being bullied. Well, then they start to realize, hey, this is now something where I feel good about myself. And guess what? Guns give me power. So they start to fantasize about revenge on the bullies, right? I can overcome those bullies because if I have a gun, right, I can then take care of things. I can get my life back in control. So when we see this pattern, this individual is being broken. They're falling away from reality into fantasy in a very unhealthy way, right? Now, let's step back for a minute. Is this really a short-term problem? Is this just kind of hit or miss? Well, they did a study for 10 years, United States and other developed countries. In the 10-year period from 2009 to 2019, 2 school shootings in Canada, 2 in France, 1 in Germany, none in Japan, Italy, or Ukraine, or United Kingdom. How many in the United States during that 10 period of time? Would you guess? 10, 100? More than 100. 288. Okay, so we would say there's something going on. Something is different here. Wait, Mr. K, it was just 10 bad years. We just had a bad stretch here in the United States. So they did a trend analysis. And here's the United States. Is it getting better or worse? Worse. It's worse. We have a real problem with our youth. We have a real problem with addictions, right? And so you add into it then kids wanting to belong. If they're not happy at home or whatever, they gotta belong, right? And so there's 2 types of gangs. There's criminal gangs, which we know are not good. A criminal goes to jail, gets out, they don't want to go back to jail, so they quote, hire teenagers that are minors, so if they got caught, it's not so bad, right? But they give them money and phones, shoes, drugs, whatever it is, pulls them in to belong to the gang. The gang's violent. It's not a good place for that kid to develop relationships. But there's another kind of gang that we're often not aware of. We call it the cool gang. The cool gang is like at school, right? And if I want to be in the cool gang, I have to prove that I'm cool. That means someone else is not cool. So they start to bully. They pick on people that are different, weaker, whatever it is, right? And they pick on those kids and bully them. And then we wonder why. Why is then all this bullying? Why are kids being angry? What are they having these problems for? It's because the cool gangs, right? And no one stops the cool gang. You're not breaking the law unless you realize that bullying is destructive. And finally, we're waking up to that fact. And so most schools now have bullying policies and stuff. So what's the problem, though, of belonging to a gang, right? Well, there's two problems. One, you give up your personal choice. When you join a gang, you conform to the gang's standards, right? You do what the gang wants. You're not making your individual choices anymore. And so we notice that our kids change dramatically, and we can start to say, yeah, I think they're in a gang, because they're not making the same independent choices that they normally would make, right? The other thing is they take on the morals of that gang. So bullying is okay. Oh, we're just kidding around, or whatever it is, right? They can rationalize it, and their standards come down, right? They wouldn't have done that on their own to that person, but as a gang, it's okay, right? And so this destructive kind of habits for people that want to belong, they want to be in this gang, they're not working like a team. The opposite of a gang is a team. Common goals are positive, they're constructive. You're developing your talents, you're learning how to help each other. You're being a role model for other players on your team, right? Versus on the gang side, it's destructive, it's criminal. And the more you do it, the more you become feared and mistrusted, right? It's a downward spiral. And so spiritually, what happens? When kids are in healthy teams, they build a sense of purpose and self-worth. They have confidence, right? They can pursue their dreams. Over here, they lose themselves, right? They fall into a survival mode that is very dangerous, right? So we then say to our kids, be part of a team, not a gang. If you want to belong, find a team. Something of your interest, whether it's sports or chess or drama. But join a team. Don't fall into a gang. So what can we do? We tell the kids, stop the bullying, right? And actually, the most effective way in a school to stop bullying is for the kids to regulate themselves. We don't bully at this school, right? And they start to interact. It's not always making the teachers have to manage them, right? And if they see someone sitting by themselves at lunch, go be a friend. Don't let that person be isolated where they're vulnerable to go off the deep end, right? But if you hear people talking about, guns or, fascinated by it, don't feed that, right? Say, hey, man, that's dangerous. If they're not talking about hunting or doing constructive things with it, right? If they're bragging about they got guns, they're testing out fantasy and reality. And if the people around them don't validate, that is not real, right? You're going off the deep end. Don't do that. It's going to get you in trouble, right? But we can report. You can report anonymously, right? To fortify, because you're not getting the kid in trouble. You're actually getting them the mental health counseling they need to get back into the real world, right? So we say to our kids, you're learning to be a leader, then promote teams, not gangs, right? Be a hero by helping other people and helping yourself, right? So again, all this fits into this 3 T's, managing my time, temptation, and then of course the last part is going to be our treasure. So we're going to talk about the last principle. When a plan failed, they failed to plan, right? And our culture has a lot to do with how we manage money. So I've got a very technical video I want you to watch that might help clarify. So see if you can get some instruction out of this. Or sometimes to identify, right? But this is a fantasy that adults live in, right? We have this credit card. I can buy what I want now and I'll pay for it later, right? But if I don't have the money, then What? My credit card balance increases. I have to pay interest on it. That TV that was on sale Black Friday, hey, but I bought it on sale, becomes more and more expensive, right? But our kids are living in a world of credit, right? So again, with the richest country in the world, 75% of Americans live in debt, right? So we have to break the mindset, this fantasy, and move back to reality with our kids. When should we start? Today, right? So just real quick, managing. So again, we get back to the basics. What are needs? What does the family need? What do you need to survive? I need air, I need food. You know, we get back to the basics, then the wants are over here, and we help the kids realize if you ask your parents for something and they say no, are they being mean? No, they're managing the family's money, right? Got Christmas coming up, Christmas lists, all that kind of stuff, right? But we get the kids starting to realize that they can practice this now, so when they become adults, they're not going to fall into this fantasy because it was modeled for them maybe before, right? So understand your folks, support them, right, in helping to manage the money. So then we say, okay, you can earn money, but you save it. A lot of our kids, they earn money and immediately it's like a hole in the pocket, right? They spend it. So we talk about strategies to save money. And as Steve Martin said, hey, where do you get this saved money, right? It's because you intentionally, proactively build that. So we teach the kids how to use smart goal planning to buy things that are important to them with a plan. We also teach them how to do actually a budget, and we have them share that budget with their family to see what the family budget looks like, right? And educate so that they're all on the same page at home, and then as they build these life skills, they can use them in their lives. So it's kind of at the end, we just have them realize, I can say no to temptations and things that aren't good for me if I have a greater yes, right? So if I'm addicted to advertising, the latest, greatest phone, shoes, whatever it is, I can say no to that because I'm saving money for college, you know? I don't have to watch endless, mindless TV because I'm going to do my homework. Or I don't need to play computer games and entertain. I can go outside and actually get exercise, right? Have fun. And I don't need to lie. I can tell the truth and take responsibility for my life. So we have the kids and these toolkits to write action plans. We actually write out how they're going to break one habit at a time. You don't try to do it all at once. You have them build, though, something that they can accomplish, right? And again, with whom? Someone who's going to hold them accountable, not themselves, right? So we want them to look in the mirror and be proud of the leader that God has made them to be, right? And so we take an oath with our class. I'd like everyone to stand up and take this oath with us, all right? This is what we do with our kids, and it's probably good for all of us, right? We're all human. All right, so you kind of put your hand up, right? Okay, like your kids. Now say it like you mean it. Say it with me. Ready? I choose, starting today, to stop wasting time and money on any addiction that hurts me and others. Encourage someone else by asking them to join you in giving up the addiction, and put the time and money I save to pursuing, developing my giftedness, goals, and dreams, and have a great life. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, good stuff. We're all on the team helping our kids together, right? One child at a time. Hey!